Hi there. In this video, I want to go over our latest cost sheet version and kind of show you around how to use it and how to really get the best out of it because it really has some cool features that will help you not just cost your product, but really sort of decide your whole pricing strategy and use it when you're basically in every stage of your business. It is a form that can work for any type of product. So fashion product, whether it's apparel or handbags or jewelries or any other accessories, can really basically work for every type of product that is being produced from scratch and is using materials and labor. Let's start. So the first thing I'll show you a little bit about is the layout and format of the template, so you kind of know what you're looking at. So when you get that, the first thing that you should notice is that at the bottom there are tabs. If you can see here, it's yellow tab, green tab, blue tab, and then some other tabs. The first one to the left is an introduction page where it sort of tells you a little bit what are the pages included here, what you should use, what you shouldn't, just basic stuff about the Excel. The next one to the right is an instruction page where a lot of what you hear now in the video is being basically written down here, so you can also read it in case you need to revisit it. But basically, instructions of how to use the cost sheets, what are the boxes that you can use, where you can enter stuff, some basic information about some of the formulas there, and how to enter information and how to really view it so you really maximize the use of this cost sheet. The next tab to the right is an example of a final cost sheet. So this is what a cost sheet that has all the information in should look like. All right. So once you plug all your information in, um, information about the style, fabrics, trims, labor, and so on. This is what it looks like, and we'll go over how to get to that point. And to the right of this tab, you will see blank cost sheets. So you have here basically five. You'll see here cost sheet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are blank cost sheet that you can use. You can make a lot more blank sheets if you want. We just included 5 to kind of get you started. But if you want to create more, all you need to do if you're on a PC is, right click on that tab of that specific page. You will then choose move a copy. This box will come up. Choose create a copy. Then choose where you would like this to be positioned. So I wanted after cost sheet number 5 and before the next tab. So I can do that. And once I press OK, see, cost sheet number 6 was created. And you can create as many as you want. So, there's really no limit to it. The other cool thing is that you can change the name here. So if I, again, right click here, and I get the option to rename this, I can now rename it anything I want. So I can rename it the style name or the style number or style with the fabric. So when I look at this worksheet, I know where to find my styles. I don't have to click on each tab to see, which one is my style. So that's sort of an easy thing. And if you work on a Mac, right here in the instruction box, see this box? If you click here, it will give you instructions to work with Mac as well, how to do this, how to copy and change names on the tabs. So that's pretty straightforward. And then the next tabs on the right to follow is really one of the features that we added this time that I think is super helpful. So we created the separate cost sheet for every style, and now Maybe we want to look at the whole line and all the styles, put the product cost for each and one of them, and kind of see a view of what it would look like with different wholesale markups, and then what the retail price will be. So, this is a blank page to do that. And this is what it would look like. So, for example, if you look here, there's a style number, style description, and then I enter the cost here, and I chose 5 different scenarios of markups for my wholesale price. So now I can look at all these prices and see which one makes sense to me. And then once I choose markups here and I choose a retailer markup here, I can also see a view for each of these scenarios, what the final retail price would be. So it's if you need to plan your pricing strategy and you really want to make sure that you're in a, positions right for your market, and the prices are in line with whatever you want them to be, whatever your competition is, whatever you feel like your customer is going to respond to the most. This is how you do it. You can put it all together, look it all together, and really make decisions about it. So that's the added value of this version, which I like very much. So now that we kind of have a view about the template in general, let's dive in and see really how do we work with the cost sheet. So I'm going to go here to the example one and kind of show you basic stuff. So a few things to note and remember that are important. Every one of these cost sheets, these blank ones, has formulas built in, meaning once you plug in information in specific boxes, it will calculate certain things for you. All right. So what we want to make sure is that we're not messing up with the boxes that have formulas built in. And that's very important. To make it very easy for you, there's one rule you need to keep in mind. Everywhere you see a text in black or in red, right? These are boxes that you can change the text in, or the numbers, or whatever information in it. Any other color, whether it's the purple here or blue here or any other colors, again, purple here, green, do not touch these boxes. If you're going to touch these boxes and play with the formula here, enter something manually, it's going to mess up with the formulas and all the numbers are not going to work out. So you don't want to do that because that's going to create some mistakes. So that's really the first rule to keep in mind. The other one keep in mind is that every markups or margins option that you need to choose. So for example, a retailer markup, or right here, the suggested wholesale prices and some other boxes that I can show you. If you press on this box, you will see a drop-down menu right here. Okay, and you can choose a different number if you want. So instead of just entering manually, you can press here. This will show up and do it. Now, one thing is that this Excel sheet was created on Microsoft Excel 2010. So in some version of Excel, maybe newer ones, the drop-down menu might not work. The box can still work. So for example, I can still enter manually here. If this doesn't work and I want to choose 2, then I can just press 2 and it will take it. Okay, so the drop-down menus just makes things easier for us. So where you'll see them is you'll see them here in the retailer markup. You will see them here when you have to choose percentage in these 3 boxes, and you'll see it again here in the suggested wholesale price. One other thing to keep in mind is if you see a red triangle right here in the corner of a box, and usually if you hover with your mouse over that box, a little comment will come up and it'll tell you what this box is and what you need to do. So for example, here, when I hover over here, it tells me insert your logo in this box. Here it will say, let's just see it again. clear. It will say insert sketch or photo of the styles in this box. Here it will tell me click here to choose your desired retail markup from the drop-down menu. So, you know, these boxes have instructions in them. Just again, in case you're not sure what they are, the main boxes will have this in, so you'll know what are they for. Just hover over the box, and you'll see that. So this is just basic understanding of the form. One of the coolest features that we added this time is the ability to see 3 different scenarios of pricing in one cost sheet. So, I'm a big believer that you have to look at the full view of your business. So, if you're a small brand and you're just starting, your production might be small and you might make really small units, but you kind of want to see, okay, as I'm growing and my production quantity is growing, what the prices would be like. Or if I want to produce domestically and I want to see how it's compared to a price that I'm getting from a factory in China and I want to see it all together in front of me, then I can create these in the same page and really kind of get an idea of how they compare to each other so I can make better decisions. The idea of the cost sheet here is really that the one thing that I kept in mind when we designed it is that we want to have things in one place as much as we can so we can have a 360 view of the details, which will, first of all, will save us time when I have to go through like different things and see how to compare them. And the other part is it helps us make decisions. Because to me, I know when I look at stuff and everything is in one place, it's easier for me to see how everything is compared to each other and decide on which way to go this way. So if you look here, there are 3 scenarios, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so the pink, the light blue, and the green scenarios. And, as a default on the cost sheet, the default scenarios is for producing 50 pieces, 150 pieces, and 500 pieces. But this can be changed. Again, these are, in red, so you can change this to be whatever units are relevant for you and whatever production volume is relevant for you. And if you're, for example, you need to decide between or compare between domestic and offshore, again, you can note it here so you'll know, okay, this is how these are my options. This is really a cool feature that we created here. Let's dive into how to actually plug in information, insert information, how to get from this blank cost sheet into this complete cost sheet. So let me explain about the sections of the cost sheet. So the basic, and maybe it'll easier to show it here. So the top of the cost sheet have information about the style. So a place to put the logo, place to put a picture or more than one picture, or how many pictures you want to fit into this box. Some basic information as to the group name, women's, men's, whatever it is, the group name, the season, obviously, descriptions of the style, and the style number. So this is pretty straightforward. The next section here is something that we would leave to really deal with and look at after we plug all the different costs of the style. Okay, because this is really where all the magic is happening. This is where you make your final decisions as to pricing. Okay, so again, you can see that there is going to be, based on these 3 scenarios here as well, and we'll touch on it in a second. But that section we'll stay away from for a second. The next section is this one. And that is the section where you put in all your fabric information, all your fabric's cost. So you have here, as you can see, 7 different options of fabrics that you can choose. Again, when we look here, for this specific dress, we have self, combo, lining, and fusible. But it could be other things, and you can change this as we said right here. This can be changed, added. So if your fabrics are different or you want to call them different names, this is where you can list them. The next part is where you really put descriptions of the fabrics. So anything that will make you know what this fabric is. And if you have an art number from the mill that you're buying it from, I would put it in here. Now, another thing that I love this cost sheet for is that if you plug in all the information right, now you have a bill of materials. In other words, I can have all the information that I need about the materials and the labor in one place here. So I don't have to go back and look for receipts or who I bought it from, what it was the art number, what was the colors and things like this. I can, for example, if I know the art number for the silk charmeuse, let's say whatever it is, let's say it's U666. So now I can put it in here, and I know that going forward, when I get to production or want to reorder this fabric, all I need to do is to open this page and everything is here. The width of the fabric is important, especially when you need to then go into grading and marking. You'll need to know the width of the fabric. It affects the yields of your consumptions of fabric. Here you can put the mill name. Again, you don't have to go crazy to look for who to buy it from. You put the name here. This next part is where you put the gross yield, so the consumption of the fabric. So in that case, the self takes 1.2, the lining will take 0.9 yard, fusible takes 0.2 yards. And then we get to the scenarios of these three scenarios. Okay, so for each of these scenarios, so for example, as I said, the default that I'm using is 50, 150, and 500. And, many times if you buy fabrics from a mill, there's going to be some discount on the fabric price the more quantities you buy. So, the price of the fabric might change when you're making 50 pieces as opposed to when you're making 500 pieces. Find out with your mill what the prices are and where the breaks are, and it will give you an idea of what these prices are. And this way here, you will have a total per fabric that is really based on the relevant price per the quantity. Okay? So this section here gives me everything that I need about fabrics. It gives me a total of fabrics as well. This is how much this dress is going to cost me for fabrics only. Okay, which is another thing that can help you when you need to make decisions, especially when you have to look at the cost sheet and figure out, oh man, I got to cut cost sheet here. I got to cut cost here because it's end up costing me more than I need. So when you have the separation of fabrics, and then the next section is trim, and the next section after it is labor, it's easier to see where is the majority of your cost and where it will make sense. Okay, so first section is the fabric. Second section is for trim, and the idea is the same idea as fabric. You can put the name of the trim, and there's 12 different versions of trims here if you look at the blank cost sheet. But again, if I have a different trim that is not listed here, then I can just go here and here and change it to whatever it is. Okay, not a big deal. The description, the mill I'm getting it from, the quantity that I'm using per one piece, and then again, prices based on the quantities. And again, I now have a view of what the cost of trim, just the cost of trim costing me. Okay. The next section is labor. So this section starts with grading and marking. Again, I can put some information as to where it is, what I'm basing it, how many sizes, things like this, and the scenarios for each of these, the prices for each of these scenarios. So again, if the default here is 50, 150, and 500, so now I have a price for each, and I can see the differences between them. And then any other labor that goes into your product, where it's printing, dyeing, washing, embroidery, something else that is not included here. If you need to change this to something else, again, it's in red, so you can change it. Um, Especially if it's not an apparel, and maybe it's jewelry, and there's other type of labors that goes into it. Then easy enough, you can change them here. Cutting, sewing, again, part of labor. And these might change depend on the quantities. Packaging, shipping costs for the product, and the last part here is miscellaneous. So I always love to, like, I don't love to add it, but I like to add it because it gives it some more cushion, is some extra. You know, the reality is things will go wrong in production. So you kind of want to have some buffer in case something happens. Um, the default that we chose is 5%. But again, if you feel like, with my, and sometimes in a higher price point, it might need to be more. Or maybe in a very low price point, you want to maybe give less cushion. Again, just you go here, press the drop down menu, and choose whatever number makes sense to you, and it will be automatically calculated into these boxes. So now, once I have the labor cost, I have a total cost of everything that goes into this style, everything to make this style happen. So I have, I have the fabrics, I have the trim, and I have the labors, all the labor stages, and I have some cushion as well. This is my total cost for labor and material. Okay. Now, the last section here is sort of optional. There's some brands and some designers like to add some other things into the cost. Some don't. So it's really optional for you. And what I have here is this will be merchant or factoring fees. So for example, if you're selling direct to customer, and you know that every time you sell online, your credit card merchant company will charge you 3%, then maybe it makes sense to just choose 3% here. This way, it's calculated into the price. And again, once you choose this, it will automatically add a cost here. And the same thing goes for sales commission. So if you have a showroom, for example, or independent salesperson, anything, if see, the idea of the cost sheet for me is that I want to have in my cost sheet everything that is related directly to making a product. Meaning, if I have an expense that doesn't include, I should say that if I have an expense that is not related to whether I produce a product or not. Okay, an example will be development of a product. I'll develop a style regardless if I'm going to make any of these units down the road or not. But if I'm producing product and I'm buying fabric to produce this product, and that's a direct cost of making that product. So, but that can go beyond labor and material. It can go into, for example, sales commission, meaning you're going to pay sales commission only if you're going to sell the product. So if you're not selling the product, you're not paying the sales commission. So some look at it as a direct cost and would like to add it here. Some don't. It's optional. It's up to you. There's really no right or wrong as long as you calculate for these things somewhere else. So I can, for example, go here and choose 3% for credit card, and let's say 12%, which might be the default for sales commission. Again, automatically it will be calculated here. All right. So if I'll go back to my example and see how all of these things work, again, you see prices here per quantity of labor. Same goes for a trim here. Sorry, that was for materials. For trim, then we have here cost for labor, and you can see how, now I have 3 scenarios of labor, 3 scenarios of cutting, 3 scenarios of grading and marking. And the bottom line is, these are different numbers. I mean, there's the difference of like $40 between making 50 and 500. Something I should be aware of. Something that will help me then decide, which one of these costs I want to base my pricing on. Okay, so you have that now, and depends whether you decided to include these or not. Now you have a total cost. And the next step from here is to choose my suggested markup for wholesale. So what that means is, in a perfect world, how much markup I would like to make. Okay, regardless of if I'll be able to make it or not at this point. If I decide that, and on average, really, it should be 2 to 2.5 for wholesale, and probably 3 to 4 if you go direct to customer. But in order to give you an idea of where you need to be, this is where I'll choose my suggested markup. So when I choose the number here based on these total costs, now I get what should be my wholesale price based on these costs for each of these scenarios. Now, that doesn't mean that, when I'm making 50 pieces, I'm going to sell for one price. And when I'm making 500 pieces, I'm going to sell for a different price. Where it will help me is, it will help me to say, okay, you know what? I know that I'm going to make 50 at the beginning, but I really need to make 500 in order to be where I need to be. What should I base my pricing on? And that takes us back to the top of the cost sheet. So now, once I chose this, my ideal one, and I have numbers here, the next step for me is to go into this box. And this box is the actual wholesale price. So this box is really, it's a number that I would enter manually. It's not something that's being calculated automatically. So if I go back into these 3 scenarios and look at them and say, you know what, I'm going to base my prices somewhere between these two. Okay. Let's see what it will give me. So I decided to go $215. I'm plugging this in. And then the next thing that I want to choose is the retailer markup. And the retailer markup will be usually anywhere from 2.2 to 2.5, depends on the market and specific retailers and things like that. But you want to base it on something average to your market. So I went with the default of 2.3. And again, if you want to change it, drop down menu, change the number to whatever you want. And now I can look and play with the numbers. So for example, I want this dress to be retailed at the store for less than $500. Okay, so I start plugging numbers here based on here. I looked into here and said, okay, what would make sense? If I chose 2.3, let me play with numbers. Can I sell for 250? Well, if I sell wholesale for 250, the retail price will be 575. Not so good. Can I sell it for 235? Still not good. That's how I got to 215. And I figure out, okay, 215 gives me the magic retailer price. Now, the next thing that I want to look at is this part here, the gross margins. And gross margin is a percentage. It's not a dollar amount. And if you took my costing classes or read any of my costing information, I usually talk about it because it's very important. That helps you understand how really profitable your business can be. So to give you an idea, is ideally where you want to be, it might not happen at the beginning, but ideally where you want to be, you want to have gross margins of at least 50%. Okay? But if I'm making small units and I'm starting my business, most times I will not have that. I will have more like in the 35 to 40%. So I want to look at this and kind of get a view again of what my prices should be. So if I'm looking at $215 as an actual wholesale price, I'm less than $500 retail price. kind of okay when I'm producing this type of units. I'm really good when I'm producing this type of units. So, now I know this is my magic number. I like it. All right. So this is how you got from here to here. Sorry, to this. All right. Now, a couple of other things that I just wanted to show you that I forgot to show is that on these boxes, how to enter your logo and your picture. So again, if I press on this box and I will go to, I can either right click and go insert, or do this and go to insert here. And I can go insert a picture, and I'll choose the folder that I want, and I can choose the logo right here. I can then move it, position it the way I want it to be. See, perfect right here. Great. Now I want to add a picture. I do the same thing. I can do it from here. Insert. Oh, sorry. Actually, my mistake. You can't do this with the right click here. You actually need to go here. So you'll go here, and again, Mac has the same option. This is a PC that I'm showing you this on. Mac has the same options. It's just located somewhere else. I insert a picture. This is my picture. Again, I'm going to take the picture and I'm going to resize it. If I need to, I right click on it. Sorry, I can right click on it and maybe choose the sizes that I want here, or crop it, so I can now go and crop it to only have this one on, for example. It's different things that I can do in order to have the picture the way that I want it. Okay, so that's something I forgot to show you guys earlier. So that's as simple as it can be. And you can see it's pretty straightforward to do this. Really, once you plug in the information, the harder part is just to collect all the information. But once you put it in, you can really get view of everything, and you can make decisions. And talking about making decisions, let's go to the last part, the part that I really, really, really excited about adding. So let's fast forward. I created a cost sheet for each of my styles. Okay, so now I have here 5, 10, 20, whatever number of styles that I have. What I want to do is I want to go to this page now. And I want to look at scenarios, different scenarios. Okay, so I might have I hope actually that you do have a very clear idea of where your prices should be. What should your dresses should be sold for, your pants, your tops, whatever it is, your belts, your bags, your necklaces, name it, whatever the product is. And I kind of want to see here a view of everything together. I want to see a view of markups. I want to see a view of gross margins, and kind of choose and make final decisions about pricing when I'm looking at all the styles. Because one of the things that could happen is that some styles you can actually push your markups and have higher markups and higher gross margins, and some you might have less. So you kind of want to make sure that they're balanced. Or, if, for example, if you're producing your product in with a factory that gives you a package price. So instead of breaking down by materials and labors and all this stuff, where you don't really need to make an actual cost sheet, you have a final cost for product. So for example, that this dress might cost you $15, all included, materials and labors, maybe even, include the shipping in it. So for example, if I'm making my products with a factory like that and I only have final numbers, then it's this sheet form becomes even more useful, because I can plug in all the cost here, all the styles, all the cost here, just like it's done here. So I have style number, style description, cost, and now I can go here, and again, see in red, I can choose whatever I have, whatever markup I want to choose. And I can choose up to 5 different scenarios of markups. Okay, so I can kind of see where it will make sense. So once I choose a markup, it gives me a wholesale price based on this markup and the cost that I entered here. And it also automatically gives me my gross margins for this markup. Okay, so again, blue I'm not touching. It will automatically calculate it for me. So for example, if I'm looking at this dress and the cost is 82.73, and I have now 5 different scenarios of wholesale markup, and I can see what the prices would be, and even more so, I can go to this green section and choose what I want my default retailer markup to be, what I'm basing it on, and I can do point two, or I can do point three, for example, like we did in the example cost sheet, and now I can see for each of these scenarios what would be the retail price. Okay, so this gives me a complete view of my line. This helps me make decisions. This helps me decide, what should be my pricing strategy. It helps me also kind of keep an eye on, what are the styles that are performed better margin wise and what the ones that are not, and kind of really see everything in one place. And I think it's, I preach for this, and I always think it's a very, very important thing to do, especially if you're a younger brand, and you kind of want to make sure that you're hitting the price point that you want to position yourself in. Okay, so this is how you do it in here. Again, very simple, the same idea. If you want to insert a logo here, you can. This is all going to be entered manually, and you have here an example of like 10 different styles. You choose the markups. Gross margins will be chosen for you. You choose the retailer markup. Done. The other thing that you can do, for example, if you are selling direct to customer only, okay? So let's say I'm selling direct to customer only, no wholesale, okay? What would be the scenario there? So if I'm going to the cost sheet, by the way, here I can decide that instead of calling this wholesale price, this would actually be retail price, because I'm not doing wholesale, and I want I want to base my margins on 3.5. Okay, so now I don't even need to get here. I can see what the retail price would be with 3.5, with 3.6, with whatever that is. Okay, so if I'm going direct to customer, this gives me a number. And if I want to see what the gross margin's there, then I will take the number from here, 365.43, for example, and I'll put it here. And now I know that for that, I'm making this type of gross margins. So, this can be very useful even if you're only doing direct to customer. And going back to this sheet, if you are doing only direct to customer, then I'll plug the style number, the style description here, and let's say, just for the sake of example, a product is costing me $50. Then what I can do is I can just do this here. Okay, so I chose one here, which means that the cost of wholesale is really just one. Okay, and then when I go here, I can choose the retailer markup to be whatever I want it to be. So it's, let's say, 3.5. So for example, if something costs me $50, and I can zero all these things out if I don't want to see other scenarios. Okay, so now I have a cost of $50, and I can decide what my markup from cost to retail directly would be. Okay, and I can do this for all the styles together. All right, so it can serve you there as well. Very straightforward, easy to work with. If you're not familiar with Excel, still very easy to do that. You can click here going back into the introduction and even the instruction boxes, and just click here on this box, and it will take you to a link that will show you here. I'll show you. It will basically take you to a link where it can show you how to move a copy worksheet or worksheet data as well. So anything you need to know really about moving and playing with the Excel sheet in general. That's it. I hope you'll find it very useful. Hope you'll enjoy working with it. I'd love to get your feedback. I would really love to get any kind of feedback, suggestions, things that worked, things that didn't work, things that you think we can still go ahead and obviously do better. This is our information. Please email us at info. Here we go. This is the email address, info@humanb.com, with any suggestions, comments. Would love to hear from you. Good luck with the cost sheet, and good luck with your business.